have you loud and clear.
We read you the same.
And that was a good communications checkout from the teams on the ground up to Dragon Grace on the C2V2 line, common communications for visiting vehicles, and that communications line connecting all parties. As we continue to work through hatch opening procedures, and again targeting approximately 8:35 a.m. Central Time for welcoming remarks as the International Space Station and Expedition 73 crew bring in and welcome aboard Axiom Mission 4. Both the orbiting laboratory and the newly docked SpaceX Dragon spacecraft over the northern Pacific Ocean, about to cross into the west coast of North America, right along the U.S.-Canadian border. And also around that time, we'll start seeing an orbital daytime period as Dragon and the International Space Station have been orbiting in a nighttime phasing. Currently experiencing a satellite handover period, and we'll continue to bring you the live views from the International Space Station, both inside or exterior. Once communications is established, which should be here in the next few moments. Till then, you can see on this map where exactly we're talking about, where the station and Dragon orbiting over the Pacific Ocean and about to cross over North America and over the northernmost territories of Canada. As we wait for those communications to return, to recap, Axiom Mission 4 has connected with the International Space Station after launching from NASA's Kennedy Space Center yesterday morning at 1:31 a.m. Central Time to connect with the space station at 5:31 a.m. Central this morning. So a little more than a day's transit, and where it would execute a sequence of burns to raise its altitude and close the distance between Dragon Grace and the International Space Station through a phase burn, boost burn, close burn, transfer burn, and then eventually the co-elliptic burn, to make sure that the spacecraft is on the same pathway as the International Space Station and able to make its way up and over top of it to connect to the space-facing port of the Harmony module, the Node 2 Zenith port. As we now get views back inside of the International Space Station, that is the view from the other side. We mentioned the space-facing port. That is looking up into where the hatchways will be to allow for the Axiom Mission 4 crew to pass through and be brought aboard the International Space Station. For Peggy Whitson, commander of Axiom Mission 4, her second flight as an Axiom commander after previously serving as commander of Axiom Mission 2. This is her 5th flight and return to the International Space Station, where she continues to build on an impressive career, the most experienced United States astronaut. Entered the mission with 675 days to her credit, and will certainly add to that record-setting total in her time aboard the orbiting laboratory, and bringing up pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of ISRO, Sławomir Uznański-Wiśniewski of Polsa, and Tibor Kapu of Hunor. And for Shukla, Uznański-Wiśniewski, and Kapu, representing India, Poland, and Hungary respectively, for those nations, it'll be their first time coming to the International Space Station. Nicole Ayers, and the last one into the hatch, I believe that was Anne McLean, making her way in as they continue to work through hatch opening procedures. In the middle there, that is Expedition 73 Commander Takuya Onishi of JAXA. And then you just momentarily saw NASA astronaut Johnny Kim float in and out of view as the crew working together to continue these procedures, moving around some equipment, and to allow for the access to the APAS hatch. After successful vestibule pressurization and checks. And that's the operations that Nicole Ayers is working on right now with Takuya Onishi. And Johnny Kim, with camera in hand, to document these procedures. And again, just on the other side of this hatchway is where the Axiom Mission 4 crew, going through procedures of their own, inventory and doffing their suits that they wore on the uphill ride to their initial orbit. And after an off-duty period, would put back on for those dynamic phases of flight, starting with the approach initiation burn that occurred earlier this morning. If you are just joining us, good morning from Mission Control in Houston in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, as we are looking live inside of the International Space Station as NASA astronauts Nicole Ayers and Anne McLean, alongside with Commander of Expedition 73 and JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi, going through a hatch opening procedures. And there you can see as the team has worked together to open up that APAS hatch and continue on with those procedures to welcome aboard eventually the Axiom Mission 4 crew, with the welcome remarks currently still targeting.
The big loop, the APAS hatch is open and no condensation observed on the seals.
Houston copies. Looks great. Thank you.
And a perfect call down right there, as that is the APAS hatch that we were just mentioning that Nicole Ayers and team have opened up, and radioing down the status and condition of that hatch with no condensation reported. as Nicole Ayers continues to work on that hatch. You'll also see that hatch be covered up to give an extra level of safety to allow for the Axiom Mission 4 team to pass smoothly without having to worry about any additional hazards as they pass through the vestibule and pressurized mating adapter and eventually into the Harmony module of the International Space Station. Another step in this hatch opening procedure is the removal of the docking cross, which it looks like that is what Nicole Ayers is working on as we speak. And you sometimes catch glimpses of it on the docking procedures that was exposed to the vacuum of space to help provide targeting for visiting vehicles. But that'll be another step in this hatch opening process again to help clear the way for that pass through between the Dragon SpaceX Grace spacecraft and the International Space Station. Hatch opening procedures continuing to move along for the teams aboard the International Space Station and Axiom Mission 4 as we draw closer and closer to the anticipated hatch opening and eventual welcome remarks. And we thank you for tuning in and joining us this morning as we are live from the International Space Station Flight Control Room in Houston, Texas, monitoring Nicole Ayers as she continues to work through those step-by-step procedures. As the hatchway, there you see the large square structure just off to the right-hand side of our field of view with that window in the middle was
Station
opened up.
Houston on the big loop. Just want to clarify, we want the standoff cross stowed in the standoff cross cover bag.
Houston Station copies.
And that's the teams here on the ground assisting the astronauts on board the station with those hatch opening procedures. As again, that zenith hatchway we were just mentioning before the comms open to the right that allowed Nicole Ayers and team to pass through. And that docking cross that was just removed will be inserted into its own bag. And there is NASA astronaut Ann McLean to join Ayers in the hatchway and continue on with those procedures as they now look to cover up the APAS hatch, which was just opened a few moments ago, to provide an extra layer of safety and protection for astronauts passing through.
നീ എവിടെയാടാ? എപ്പോഴാണ് ലൈനിലൊന്ന് വരുന്നത്? അത്യാവശ്യമാണ്. ഞാനൊരു ലൈവ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു സാധനം ഞാൻ ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അത് ഫെയ്ഡ് ആകുന്നില്ലത്. വീട്ടിലാ? അതായത് ഇവിടുത്തെ സമയം ഇപ്പം അവിടെ എത്രയായി? അപ്പോൾ അതായത് ഇനി ഒരു 4.5 മണിക്കൂർ കഴിയുമ്പോൾ അല്ലേ? ഓക്കെ, എന്നാൽ അപ്പം അന്നേരം ഞാൻ വിളിക്കാം. നീ മറന്നു പോയേക്കരുത് ഇത്, കാരണം ഇത് ലൈവ് പോകുന്നില്ല സംഗതി നന്നായിട്ടേ. ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒന്നും കയറാൻ പറ്റിയല്ലേ നിനക്ക് അല്ലേ? ഓക്കെ 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 ഓക്കെ.